hope that you read the little, the title correctly, and you knew that this was going to be a multicultural, multilingual content session. So why are you doing it? Yes. Okay. All right. Yes. Do I need to repeat it? Okay. She said, can you repeat again? Now I just got all confused. I'm sorry. Oh, that would be great, Alex. Thank you so much. If that works.
Just.
She was saying that the neighborhood is changing drastically where she's at, and they're almost forced.
Our church was traditionally in an African American community. It is now being expanded to Hispanic. We have African culture. We have Asians. We have all persons in our community, and so we feel the need to be available to everyone that's in the community.
Thank you. Anyone else? Why am I doing it? Why am I doing why do I want to start doing multicultural content in your church, in your Facebook page? Yes.
But our rector decided that's what we're going to do. So as a church, we're standing behind her.
We're using the microphone because those on the broadcast can hear that. So I know it seems kind of silly, like in this room, but that's what's going on.
To form community, so for bi-directional learning and sharing.
Oh, cool. Yes.
People can actually use the tool if it's not in the language of, so it's a website and they can't access the information if it's not in their language and won't include the whole church.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
In my congregation, we're having the opposite problem. In my congregation, we're having the opposite problem. It's a majority first-generation Latino church, and now we're trying to figure out how to reach the second generation who don't necessarily speak Spanish.
Oh.
So we're trying to figure out how to include English without making everyone mad.
Yeah, we usually have to worry about why making people mad, right, sometimes. So why am I doing it? The Episcopal Church Foundation realized that there were a lot more Latinos in the United States and in the Episcopal Church. So they decided it's about time that we start putting some Spanish language resources out there. And they decided in 2010 that it was the best time to start. They said, you know what, we have a couple of people that are bilingual right now in our company or the Episcopal Church Foundation, and they decided we're going to start putting stuff in Spanish. So what they did was they started translating it. But then it wasn't enough. They realized that in order to reach people of, like Spanish-speaking people, you have to be authentic with it, right? So you have to find people that will actually write and create resources in Spanish. So therefore, they put out the job description, and thank God I got the position. But I love it, and I'm so glad that I did, because I know that it has been a very important part of my life for over 30 years in the Episcopal Church. And so when we talk about why am I doing it, a lot of people say, well, we want to grow. Have you heard that before? We want to grow, right? But the thing is, congregations or dioceses or people, they want to grow, but not in the way that might upset them. I want to grow if it's the way I see it, the way I have it, when I control it. That's when I want to grow. And we hear a lot of the church is dying. Have y'all ever heard that before? The church is dying. Sometimes I think, though, that maybe we are killing the church. However, I don't think that's really that bad. We are people of the resurrection, or at least that's what I hear, that we're people of the resurrection. So sometimes we have to let that stuff die in order for something else to grow. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect the different results, right? We hear that all the time. So what we have always done might not be what we need to keep doing. What we have done is not working, or otherwise we wouldn't be saying that the church is dying, right? Or my congregation is dying. Does anybody have any comments about that? Like, what, have y'all heard that in your churches? Do y'all feel that's going on also? Do you want to share something? Come get the mic.
I have seen many Anglo churches dying, and this is what the diocese do. They give the building, the neighborhood around the church changed. It became more diverse, perhaps more gray or more black or more brown. And what they do is they give the building, they decide, the diocese takes the building and they say they're going to start a Latino ministry, which I think sometimes is a problem of putting the cart before the horse. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I actually think our ASA is dying, but I think the church is rising. So what I hear more about is what people are doing in their neighborhoods, like congregations of 10 people feeding 100 people a day.
Yes.
But their ASA is the same. So I think what we need to define as church needs to change.
Yeah,
if Sunday morning is what church is, then we're going to die. But if it's a broader understanding of church, it's not dying, it's growing.
I agree. Any other comments? Another reason that people say that they want to do multilingual and multicultural content is that they want to be inclusive. Have you heard that? I want to celebrate a culture. That's why we want to do things, right? Allow me to play, oops, where's the mouse? Sorry, guys, oh, here's the mouse. Okay, I'm supposed to be using my computer. I'm so sorry. I was looking for the mouse for that computer, and yet it's the one on my computer. Okay, while that ad is happening, the what?
The name of the videos?
The video is, I don't know what the name of the video is right here. Oh, it's 7 myths about cultural appropriation debunked. But that happens first and then the video. Do I need to turn on my sound or how? Because there's no sound right now.
Yes, turn on your sound.
Okay, it's just playing on mine. Is there any way to play on it? It is? Okay.
Yeah, there is. I apologize.
All right, so when I'm sorry about that, yeah. All right, so we're gonna have a video in just a second, and it's gonna talk about cultural appropriation. Have y'all heard about that before? What does that mean? There's a difference between appropriation and appreciation. Have y'all heard that before? Can someone talk to me about it, or please, before we, like, what do y'all think about that? Yes. Yes. Maybe you might keep the mic because you like to run around, I think. You're good at that.
So there was that example. I'm just going to mention this. There was a controversy, I think it was 4 or 5 months, or maybe more, 6 months ago, about a professor of African American studies who everyone thought she was African American, and it turned out that she was not, and she was, I think, forced to resign. I'm just going to say that. Oh. You didn't hear the story? It was in the news. It was big in the news. What's her name?
Rachel Dolezal. She's a white woman who identified herself as a Black person. Yeah. She writes books and makes money now. I don't know.
How about if I just play it for y'all? I hope that you can hear some of it, but you can see it. And, there's a lot of, will that work if I put my mic?
You can try it.
Okay, now there's absolutely no sound now.
Unplug it. I'm sorry.
Oh, this?
Between cultural exchange, appreciation, and appropriation. Why does it even matter? Here are 7 myths about cultural appropriation debunked. You're just looking for something to be offended by. It's just clothing, hairstyles, decorations, whatever. Don't you have something better to worry about? Okay, first off, it's possible to care about more than one issue at a time. The main problem with cultural appropriation comes from dominant groups borrowing from marginalized groups who face oppression or have been stigmatized for their cultural practices throughout history. Like cornrows. I mean, anyone can wear their hair in cornrows, but Black people still face stigmas for wearing them, along with perfectly natural hairstyles like braids and locks. There are even companies and schools that prohibit these natural hairstyles. People have actually been fired for wearing braids. Meanwhile, fashion models and celebs like Kylie Jenner get praised for wearing cornrows. And that's the main point. One group is being penalized by institutions for wearing natural hairstyles, while the other is called edgy and stylish for doing the exact same thing. I'm doing it because I think it's beautiful and exotic. I'm just showing appreciation for the culture. Look, it's great that you find another group's culture beautiful, but in order to show you truly love it, you need to have respect and understanding. Take, for example, tribal tattoos. The Maori
I'm
of
gonna
New
fast
Zealand
forward a little bit of it.
Perry played carelessly with stereotypes in an attempt to create a Japanese aesthetic. And that kind of crushes the idea that appropriation is harmless. You're just trying to tell everyone what to think. Hello, thought police. Have you ever heard of the First Amendment? Nobody's telling you what to think, wear, or say. Marginalized people can't stop you from doing your thing, even if they wanted to. But if you think you have the right to use any cultural tradition just cause, that's where you get into oppressive territory. And if you genuinely don't care if someone is hurt by your appropriation, that's just crappy. So because I'm white, I'm automatically racist. And if I wear this clothing, I'm even more racist. This isn't about beating up on white people. Anyone can appropriate elements of marginalized cultures. Heck, Pharrell even made the mistake of wearing a Native American headdress on the cover of Elle magazine. And after getting some much-deserved flack, he actually issued an apology. If Chinese people wear blue jeans...
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I moved this mic, and isn't that supposed to be there?
That mic's fine.
I know, but I moved it, sorry. I'm Alex's worst nightmare.
Aren't they appropriating my culture? Or what about Black girls wearing blonde weaves? Or how about speaking English? Okay, this is a tough one. Assimilation and appropriation aren't the same thing. Marginalized people conforming to standards set by dominant, or in this case, Western cultures, is often a means of survival. When your cultural heritage is looked down on, often people change or hide things about themselves in order to be accepted by majority culture. For example,
So you get the idea, right? And if you want to see more of this, I invite you to check it out on YouTube. It is really important for us to realize when we're being appreciative or when we're celebrating a culture and when we're being completely rude and not respectful of a culture. And a lot of times people don't make that distinction, right? Has that ever happened to one of y'all? Anybody? Yes. Do you want to give us an example? No. And a lot of times I've heard it. Well, I'm just being, I'm just trying to be like you, or I'm just trying to show that I care about your culture. Or I know that I may not speak this language correctly, but I'm still going to chop it and you just have to take it. However, if I were speaking English and you couldn't understand it, then there would be a problem. I've seen that a lot in my community. And why is that? These are the questions, right? Sometimes we think, oh, I want to help. We want to help. That's why we want to start doing multicultural things. We want to help. Have y'all ever heard that or have said that? We want to help. Do we really want to help, or do we want to colonize? Do I want to take away their power by doing that? I think a lot of times that's what happens. If I give you what I feel like you need, then you need to be thankful, right? And yet I'm over here and we're down here. And that's very, very, it's touchy. It's touchy, and especially when you go into the diocesan level or to, a church level. Am I going something? It's people that mean well, right? But it's 2016. It's about time we stop trying to mean well and actually mean well. If we need to get educated, then let's do that. So then I keep going to the wrong computer, I'm sorry. So now we're gonna go to how do we get started? Okay, how do you get started with this multicultural, multilingual thing, huge thing that we have that everybody seems to want? Every diocese, and I'm speaking Episcopalian, I'm sorry, those of you that are not Episcopalian, but every diocese wants, the new cute thing, the dark thing. We want it more. Because it's going to bring more people, right? Because I know for a fact, Latinos are younger. I don't know about African Americans. I believe that they are younger still than whites. Our communities are just younger. And we have a lot of people in them. So what do we want? Okay, so how are we going to do this? One of the things that I like to do as a teacher is have little, thank you. I was thinking across acronyms. And I have this one that says real. How will I do it respectfully? I will do it excellently, authentically, and lovingly. As a singer, I am often asked to come to different dioceses and different places to sing. And one of the songs that I like to do is called Montaña. And it's a really cool song. There's a lot of beat, everybody wants to dance. But this is what they look like, a lot of people when they come. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do Montaña. And they start with, and with a maraca here, and with a sombrero here. That is not respectful. It is definitely not excellent. It is not authentic, and it's not loving. And they're looking at me going like, and I'm like, no, that's not cool. But I honestly have had to do this a lot of times and just keep singing and let them go crazy with their things, with their sarapes and their whatever they feel. Today's meal. I'm sorry. Today's meal was like make your own nacho or something. I was like, okay, all right. And yet we are okay with that. We say it's okay. I'm not saying that the meal was bad. I'm not saying that the what's it called? The food was good. It was seasoned nicely and stuff, but let's not call something that is not simply because, that's, it's cute. It's Mexican Day. And we have that in our churches. Have y'all ever had those cultural days? And we make one, oh my God. Okay, let me go back. We have the altar with things on it that you don't even know what they mean. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Because if I go inside your church and you want to welcome me, why do you think a sarape on your altar will do that for me? Or why do you think saying hola will do it for me? And the thing is, it's very uncomfortable and it's very fake. And it's definitely not respectful. It's not relevant. If we want to keep going with letters, I created several of them. They're not relevant. They're not empathetic or empowering. They're actually none of those things. We're not only not being authentic, we're also not being accountable or affirming. And we're not being, we're not being loving. We're not being liberating, and we're definitely not being life-giving. And those are the things that Jesus asked us to do. Do y'all at least agree with that? Jesus has asked us to love, and Jesus has always given us life. And the thing is, when we continue to either allow it, right, for it to happen, continue to happen to us, or we do it, let's be completely honest. I'm not going to ask you guys to raise your hands, but I'm sure we have all done something like this. I know I have. I'm going to sing this type of music, and I don't know anything about it. But because I feel like I can, I appropriate instead of saying, you know what, sister or brother, why don't you teach me something about that song? Why don't you help me do this or that or the other? Right? And I see that a lot. I see that so much. People ask me to come to their dioceses, to their churches, to their events. Please sing something in Spanish. We need more, Latinos, and you're going to be able to do it. Me coming to your church one time and singing one song in Spanish that you're okay with is not making you multicultural. It's not. It goes, you have to continually do more than just that. You have to think of stuff as, is it respectful? Is it excellent? You see, that's another thing. And I'm just going to go on a little tangent right there. As a musician, a lot of times I go to places and they're like, well, we're doing it for God. So who cares if it's ugly? And, who cares if they don't know how to sing or play? We're not being excellent. So if you're going to do something, let's do it right. Let's stop with the, yes, ma'am. Alex is going to hate me at the end of this, if he doesn't already.
The song that we sang at the end of worship today, I think was the way we did it. It was extremely powerful. And I think that the writers would have appreciated it. I think sometimes that song has been sung at the wrong time, in the wrong place, and not with the same meaning. And it comes off very, very bad. And I have to say, when I saw that we were going to sing it, there was a part of me that kind of tensed up because I wasn't sure how it was going to be presented, because it's such a very important song to our culture.
Yes.
And I really want to commend whoever did it today, who laid it out in that manner. It was very well done.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. One of the things, I'm very, very careful when it comes to those things. I remember once I was we were in some mountains, and we were singing, please tell me if I'm correct, Appalachia, is that how you say that? And the songs that they were singing, there was a bluegrass band there, and one of our singers wanted to sing like them. And I said, what are you doing? Why are you doing this accent? It makes no sense. Like, just sing it. And so today, as a matter of fact, when we were talking to the musician, he did a note, and I said, no, don't put that note, please. Just, keep it the way it is, because that is the way I have heard it. When I've heard it in an all African-American church, or when we're doing an event, that we're actually doing, what's it called, a pilgrimage or something, it is a certain way. Lift every voice and sing. So thank you for saying that. For me, it's a very important song as well. Yes. Okay, you got it.
Hi. I am going to ask a question that might challenge what you just said. So I understand not doing it respectfully, excellently, authentically, and lovingly when you try to mimic someone's accent. But what is the difference? I guess this falls back into the appropriation, appreciation, when you've actually treated it like an art form and have developed the skills to fully have that musical skill or that preaching talent or whatever it is.
Give me an example.
I am an Episcopalian. I love the art of Black preaching, and it is a skill that I am formally developing.
And I have never heard what Black preaching means. Have y'all? Because I don't know what that means. That's not Black preaching. He's just preaching. Am I right? That's how I see it. He preaches with emotion. He preaches with passion. You feel it. And it's not something, I'm sorry, but I don't think he learned it. And a lot of times I'm told, ooh, you sing like a Black girl. Go on, girl. You sing like a Black girl. I sing like me. God has, works through me, but I sing like me. I'm not trying to be like a Black girl. I'm not trying to be a Black gospel singer. Yes.
Thank you. I would like to share something that's very dear to me. I migrated to the United States as I want to say 10 years of age. And of course, when you came from a place like West Africa, you have an accent. And going all throughout middle school and high school, you have an accent. When people see you, the first thing they know is that you have an accent. And the time where before you open your mouth, someone tried to mimic the way you sound. It's very irritating. And secondly, they don't take the time to understand what you're trying to say. Is that I don't hear you, I don't understand you, and then they go away trying to sound like you. And for the longest time, I stopped speaking because I didn't want to be made fun of. And then not only did I stop speaking, but then I tried to sound like, the exactly. So you're trying to pronounce word and trying to, so you know, hide what you sound like. And I had to come to the part where it's like, you know what, I sound ridiculous because that's not the way I actually sounding. Just be me, and you know, allow my voice, you know, to come out.
Yes. Again. He's saying when you try to talk, and I guess when you have an accent, people get frustrated, right? My dad has a thick accent, and sometimes I want to translate some things for him, and he's like, he translates for me. I'm like, oh, I didn't hear that part, because he understands. And if y'all know Anthony Guillen, his wife, a few years ago, we were in the General Convention, which is the convention that we get together every 3 years. And she told somebody who kind of acted disrespectfully to her. She said, I may have an accent, but I don't think in an accent. And, we have to be very careful. And the way that you become aware is by your surrounding. I have a gay child, and my dad is we grew up evangelical, and we grew up very conservative. And so for the longest time, women shouldn't be pastors, and, homosexuality is a sin, and they should not be this or that or the other. But, the more, like, I felt the calling into the priesthood. And so when I told my dad that, he was closer, right, to, okay, I raised her. So obviously I know what I fed her. And so how can it be wrong for a woman, this being my daughter, to feel a calling to the priesthood, right? And then when my brother actually got his girlfriend pregnant, and again, oh my God, sex before marriage, what is that? And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, then that's opening up, right? And then now my son is gay, and he comes out to his grandfather who he adores. And my dad has to also, again, see, I raised this boy. How can this not be the face of God in my life? So the closer you are to different things, whether it's Black, Hispanic, meat, anything, whites, because again, those of us who aren't, a lot of times we also say, oh, no, that person's white. They don't understand. They don't get it. They don't understand. Am I wrong? Because I know I've done that before. You know what? You don't understand. You don't get me. And then all of a sudden, when you have, white friends who do understand and may go through a lot worse things than you do, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I didn't understand. I'm being all of these things negatively against these people, against this person, against this group, simply because they are. One of the things, again, as a singer, as a musician, I mentor a lot of youth, a lot of young people. And a lot of times they're like, I don't like the old music. I don't like the old hymns. They'll say that. Have you heard that before? But then what do they say when you say, I don't like your music? I can't believe it. You're evil, and I'm going away from church. You're like, you want them to accept you, but you don't want to accept them? How does that work? How am I supposed to accept someone or, have them accept me if I don't make that first attempt of being accepted? And this is a lifelong journey, guys. It doesn't end right now. And it's not just because I'm a dark person that all of a sudden, I'm better and I know and I understand. It's not like that. A lot of us who are Latinos, those of us who are Latinos, we also have that problem where I'm a light Latino and you're a dark Latino and you're a Black. A lot of people tell us, oh, there must be no prejudice with Latinos. I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh my goodness, you have blue eyes and all of a sudden you become here, and you have dark skin and all of a sudden you're there, or you have this accent, it's amazing all the stuff we go through. And like, for example, I know that we have a couple of priests here. I can't even imagine, are you all? We have a couple of priests here. Latino priests. I was like, and you're also in a Latino, and she's also in a Latino congregation where you are filled with people from all over the world. So you may think, oh, I've got, like Ecuatoriano, right? I got the Ecuatorianos right, Peruano, I got the Peruanos right. Where are you from? I got the Dominicans right. All of a sudden, the people that come from your church, Okay, well, so is he. So that will. All of a sudden you think, oh, I've got this down, but then you don't. I have friends who have a predominantly Black, African-American church. The reason why I'm saying that is because some people are not African-American. They're straight from Africa or straight from another country, or were born here and they don't even know where they can, it's like from all over. And the priests say, like, I don't know what to do, because if I go with them, all of a sudden they're all the other, just because you go inside and you're like, oh, they all look the same. No, we all eat different food. We all like different things. And so we can't clump everybody together. So when we're trying to create multilingual, multicultural content, the first thing we have to do is think, okay, is this relevant, right? Is this real? Is this respectful? How do I know? How can we figure out if this is respectful? What is an idea that you have? Ask. Thank you. Ask. And at the same time, she may ask me, and I may be too shy to say that's disrespectful. We were in a godly play meeting in the Diocese of Texas a few days ago, and somebody said, oh, I don't speak Spanish, because it was a bilingual one. It was actually for Spanish speakers. And she said, oh, I don't speak Spanish. I just know burrito and taco and stuff. You know what I mean? It is funny if you think about it. At least they didn't say all the bad words that they know, because I hate that. That's even worse for me. And then so a couple of people, they were like, a couple of people laughed. But then this one priest, she was like, I was very offended by that. And I said, well, tell her. Because you never know, maybe the person doesn't even realize that was rude. Maybe she thought that would be funny, that would be cute. Like, we can, get to know each other like that. You have to also open your mouth and say, that was very disrespectful to me. And trust me, people will go like, whatever. I was just trying to be nice. But some people will be like, I am so sorry. I did not even realize that. But it's about communication, it's about asking.
We started a bilingual service in our church about a year and a half ago. And our rector knows like 3 or 4 languages. I only know English. And so it has been very difficult for me to translate things, because I do the bulletin for our English service. And so of course I try to, do as much as I can for the other. And I have found that they have the most grace for me when I'm so sorry, I'm willing to learn, please accept my apology. So I think that dialogue up front of, I don't want to step on your toes, I want to appreciate who you are. And likewise, an overwhelming amount, especially the core leaders of our Spanish service, they have been extremely graceful to me. So I think it goes both ways.
Yes.
I think you do a favor to a lot of white people too, to point out when something is received as disrespectful, because many of us are kind of afraid in the conversation because we don't want to be disrespectful, but we don't know all of the things that can be.
Yes. And like you're saying, just that dialogue, it is so important. When will you do it though? Once you start thinking, okay, I'm going to do it respectfully, excellent, authentic, and lovingly, when do I start? You see that? Right now. Now, I know that may sound like a total, what's it called? I'm sorry? Maybe, or like I'm totally going against everything I just said. However, thank you. But the time is now. And again, going back to the real, you have to be real, but you can start today. How do I start today? There's a lot of congregations that have started just like that. They didn't speak Spanish and they started a congregation because they knew that their community was growing. And so what do they do? At first, it may not look very authentic or very real. The cathedral in Houston, they had this huge banner that said, what's it called? Misa Mariachi, 1 p.m. Sundays. Mariachi mass at 1 p.m. And I was like, thank you. And you're a Latino, right? Would you have gone in? And I said, what is that for? And they're like, oh, for a Latino, mass. And I'm like, That's not inviting to me. I think it would be inviting to somebody that's, oh, that's cool. That's like, my margarita time. Let me go to mariachi. I think that would be, but it's not. And the thing is, like, they didn't think it through. They thought Mexican mariachi together, 1:00, let's start. But that is a start, right? That is a start. So, but once you go from there, and then it's 10 years later, and you're still doing the same thing, and you have not grown, you may have to rethink things, right? We have a friend, I won't say his name because a lot of us know him, but he started years ago. He just started translating things into Spanish. He's not he's a Spanish speaker, but not fluent, but he just started translating stuff. And at the time, it was fine. That was necessary. But 20 years later, and the things still remain the same, that is no longer relevant or excellent or even loving. We've got to grow, right? So right now, like, let's say y'all want to start, what did you say that you needed to change your mass to be more back, like for bilingual maybe into Spanish, right? There's a lot of Latinos there. You could just start, bienvenidos, you can learn that word, right? And then just have them start, because if the people start coming, they will say what they need. They will themselves say, I want to read, or I want to sing, or, anything. But if there's a need, they're hungry, right? They're hungry. And so they need it. For you, the same thing. Even the people that don't speak that much English, you speak English, right? So you can help that second generation to get, into it as well, and to help the first generation. Now, that's a totally different topic as well, to go, and I know that we study it a lot, with the Latino Hispanic ministries. How do we reach first, second, third generation where they have already lost their language, where they don't speak the first language, where they never even knew that first language, right? So there's ways, and you can start, but once you start, just don't stay there. Let's think of ways to grow. I have one more slide that I really, really like. I hope that y'all can see that. And there's a difference between equality and equity. Who has seen this before? Oh, do they? Yeah. Oh. Because, when we are, for example, in school, for me as a teacher, a lot of times they want us to teach all the kids the same way. But we don't know the stuff that they're missing, right? The things that they don't come with, the things that they don't come equipped with. And so equity is getting them from here to there, but giving them the same opportunities to get there, right? And I think we need to think about that also in our own ministries. How do we help people, with their walk, their faith walk, to get from where they're at to where they could be, if they haven't had, the things that all of us have had? If maybe they don't have the language. I mean, I go to a lot of, English-speaking churches, and I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Excuse me. I don't even know what they're talking about, right? Sorry, people. I don't, and I'm like, what is this narthex and the blah, blah, blah? I don't, the back, isn't that just the back? I mean, the front, and, all. I just don't even understand. I don't know how my brother does it, putting on all those things that he has to put on and knowing, okay, now I'm putting on the cape. Yes, all that stuff. I don't understand it. And sometimes that's how we speak, right? I've heard los acólitos, and people are like, what is an acolyte? What is that? I thought in Spanish, alcohólicos y acólitos sounds the same. Alcoholic and acolyte, yes. And so, no, and I had just become an Episcopalian. And so somebody was telling me, yeah, I'm an acólito, and I'm an acolyte. they go hand in hand, apparently. And I was like, and I was telling him, I'm so sorry. I'll pray for you, and I hope it doesn't affect your family too much. And he was like, what are you? And finally, when I was going home, I was like, an acólito, not an alcohólico. I'm so sorry. I know. He was like, what's wrong with her? what's wrong with her? Now, this was when I was a teen, so long ago. So now, I play around with it. You're an alcoholico and an alcoholico. No, but, so there's just some words that we don't know. And I know that some priests, I know that Padre Luis, he usually explains what he's doing, right? Like, because you have a lot of children. So sometimes we have to act as though, I don't know a lot of the terminology. I'm an Episcopalian for 30 years, but I don't know a lot of the terminology. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But help me, right? And so when we have people, if you want people to really come, if you really are committed to having multicultural, multi-ethnic, multilingual people come into your church, you've got to treat them with respect and show them, the love of Christ, which that may mean not having 20 books, as soon as they walk in. Maybe it's just everything in one bulletin, one piece of paper, or maybe like, in your church and several churches, just have it projected, etc. Any questions, comments? Yes.
So this is coming from someone that does ministry in a community that is struggling to accept Latino members. They're having many of these sorts of situations occur that are struggles. Do you have advice on how to facilitate an exchange of information or creative ways of developing that sort of change?
Between like Spanish speakers and English speakers coming together. Does anybody have any ideas about that? I know that from my personal opinion, or experience, we have had bilingual masses that are not all translated. It's not just, right now we're doing it in English and in Spanish. No, everything is just kind of like we're doing a song in English that you can also sing in Spanish. Everything is bilingual, including like the sermon. Like they're not translating it, but it's, saying kind of the same concepts, but in different languages. The biggest thing for me, I think what has worked is you have to get people in social settings. It, like either have like a meal after the mass, but not like, all the Latinos go on this side and all, the whites go on this side. But it's, that mix of for them to see, we have the same things. We have kids, we have, children of college age, or, we both like to bowl or whatever, but just have those social situations. What do y'all think? Yes.
In times of disaster, but I think it could work for other ministry things. There was a congregation that was predominantly white and older and professional folks, and a Latino congregation that folks who had a lot of like construction experience, a lot of on the ground experience. They were younger, they could actually do physical work, and a disaster happened. And so all of a sudden, the older white folks with all the money and the quote unquote knowledge had no idea what to do in responding to that and responding to folks in the community when they were trying to help people rebuild. And so all of a sudden, the people who were seen as the outsiders were the people telling the older white folks what to do. And that was helpful in them moving forward and doing things further. So what some folks have done is they've created kind of like work teams to respond to local disasters.
Yes.
So the person who's a carpenter and the person who does taxes might work together with a person in the community to help them do something, just like do their taxes and fix their cabinets. And so it's not necessarily, they don't have to wait for something horrible to happen.
Right.
But they create ministry opportunities where people from different backgrounds and experiences can work together on a similar ministry. Where the person who is considered the marginalized person
Yes.
has the most power in the situation.
Mm-hmm. I have also seen where one of my friends works at a very, like you said, higher, economic bracket or whatever. And she's had the lawyers and doctors come to a predominantly poor neighborhood and, like help them either, to do a will or to help with medical things. And so there's like that, like you're saying, an exchange of goods. Anyone else? Yes.
I would just say too, from the standpoint of liturgy, and this comes back to your point about excellence, is that if you want to do bilingual liturgy, it is a hell of a lot more work. Because what people do is they're like, oh, well, I'll just do everything twice. Nobody want to sit through that service. And then people start resenting it because church takes forever. Like, as people who plan liturgy, like, you have to be willing to put in the work. The sermon takes 4 times as long to write because you have to pare down every word, and you have to be willing to say less, and you have to be willing to make more announcements. Otherwise, it just sucks. And people don't do that enough. Yeah. They don't think. It's a pet peeve of mine.
Yes. He's the microphone police there.
I was just going to say, to piggyback off that, creating a bilingual bulletin, because we print everything from the collect to the end. I mean, we print everything in the bulletin so that people new to the Episcopal Church don't have to juggle the hymnal and the Book of Common Prayer and stuff. And so we have found, I borrow templates from anybody I can. And we finally now gotten a pretty good template of, side-by-side text. So it's a little bit more user-friendly.
Thank you.
So I'll use a little bit of my privilege to make my own comment here. Stay with me. There's a story of an abbot who had a monastery and one day the abbot got a cat, and he fell in love with this cat, and the cat would walk up and down the prayer rails during services and all of these sorts of things. And one day the younger new monks got upset with the abbot and said, we can't have this cat, it's being distracting during worship. So the abbot said, okay. And he put a little rope around the cat's neck outside of the sanctuary, and every day, 3 times a day for services, the cat would come and sit. And after a few weeks, the cat didn't even need the little rope. It would just come at service times and sit outside. And this happened for years. And eventually the abbot died, and the cat kept coming for services. And more turnover happened. And then no one really remembered why the cat was there, and the cat dies. So they bury the cat, and they say, we can't have worship unless we have a cat sitting outside of the door. So I think one of the common threads between when you're talking about this multicultural things, you're talking about the appropriation in the beginning, putting things on the altar, the liturgical side, and my fellow clergy can feel free to disagree with me, but I think that those things of vestments and these sorts of things can be important. The important part is understanding, and digital media. I mean, we're here at eFormation, right? Yep. It's not enough to just say, let's get on Twitter, let's get on Facebook. The important part is, why are we doing this? Yep. If we do not understand why we want to be multicultural, why we want to be online, or why we're in worship in the first place, then none of these symbols, none of these things are going to make any sense. And I think, to me at least, that seems to be the fundamental problem with cultural appropriation, is that reasoning behind what's going on there.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And that was, that's why I started with that. Why? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want multicultural? Why do you want multilingual? And, we had different reasons. But if the reason, the main reason is not because I want to share Jesus' love with them, then maybe we shouldn't be doing it. Because then it's not going to work out. Even if you do the real, things, it won't work out. So always start with the why. Why am I doing this? And then when you see that, like you're saying, if it's the right thing for your congregation, which a lot of times it is. I mean, if your community is changing, yes, it's the right thing to do. And then remember how to do it. Try to remember that real, the acronym. And then you can go from there and then start. So any more questions? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for even thinking about doing multicultural and multilingual stuff. My name is Sandra Montes. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. Please feel free to contact me. I will help you, hold your hand, through it if you need it. I have a lot of resources in Spanish and in English, and I'm here to help. So thank you very much. Thank you.
So Spanish speakers, we're just gonna get together after we decide on our next session.
I hope I didn't upset you. That's the one thing I don't. Okay. So where are you sitting?
I like Baptist preachers. It was really funny because I was at the Episcopal Preaching Foundation's conference last week, where you stand up and you preach with a bunch of other Episcopal seminarians. Well, it was the first time I'd ever been in a room with only Episcopalians that I preached to, and that was
So that's like their language.
yeah. I was like, clearly I don't preach like an Episcopalian. They're like, no, but
You preach like our presiding bishop.
yeah.
So hey, that's pretty Episcopalian to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's what I forget the phrasing was like. Get up. I gotta remember. There was a phrase that the guy who was leading my little work group used, and my favorite was, it was like, get excited, strike fire, sit down.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes.
But that's, for me, that's what church is.
Yeah.
It should be striking fire.
No, you're
like,
Episcopalian?